Hi, I'm Dr. Dooley. I'm a board certified psychiatrist. If you're new here, I talk about topics in popular culture that are related to mental health and wellness, and also, some conversation and discussion about the practice of medicine in general. So today I want to come with what I'm calling not beating the allegations. And where this sprung from is that on TikTok, I have noticed a theme, mostly women who are talking about not wanting to be married, just not understanding how marriage will benefit them for a variety of reasons. On social media, you get people's highlight reels. So I find that as it relates to social media, you either get these highlight reels, right, where people are like madly in love and everything's perfect, like picture perfect houses, picture perfect cars, just all this kind of stuff. Or you get these, who did I marry kind of, situations, and just even particularly on TikTok, just examples of frank like abuse and trauma that people are either displaying or talking about. So to me, it can really be hard to try to navigate, and really know what's real, when it comes to seeing marriage and relationships that are depicted on social media. But one thing I will tell you is that I'm in several like mom or parenting groups, and I have noticed, particularly around holidays like Mother's Day and things like that, lots of posts from women who are feeling very like disappointed that they weren't recognized by their spouse, on Mother's Day and things like that. So this is a post from one of the mom groups that I'm in. And this person isn't married, but they were proposed to. So I'm going to read it for y'all. So it says, how do you feel about proposals? Is it a big thing to y'all, or do you not care how your man proposes to you? My boyfriend proposed to me, but I didn't like how he did it. It wasn't romantic at all. I expected it to be romantic, sweet, the best day of my life, and something to remember forever. And it's interesting because as I went back and looked at the comments, I would say the overwhelming amount of comments were basically saying that she should essentially just be happy that she got proposed to, and that the most important thing about a marriage is not the proposal and or the ring or the wedding. It really is the relationship. And let me tell you, I really do think we there's like overly romanticized proposals. Even like prom proposals have become a thing, for kids. So I do think that when we see, these like very grand gestures online, that it can be hard for people to meet that expectation. But here's what I'll say, that if your partner, hopefully, if they're proposing to you, they know you. They know the things that you would like. They know how you would want to be proposed to. Maybe you even talked about it. Just like people go shop for rings. So when the person buys the ring, they kind of have an idea of what the other person would want. I mean, the same way with a proposal. So I just want to say that, this kind of thing where hopefully your partner would know something about you, but they respond in a way that is totally either opposite or dismissive of the thing that you would like. I do not see that pattern goes away after you get married. So if she wanted, and again, she didn't necessarily say what kind of proposal she wanted, but it sounds like it would have been something more than what she received. Again, she didn't go into details about what actually happened, but then hopefully your partner would respond to that. And, let's say, for example, if you wanted a proposal that included all your friends and family and, a big to do, then okay, let's say maybe you live in a place where your friends and family aren't located, but maybe your partner could talk to your coworkers or talk to the friends you do have, like really just try to do something to make it special, even if it can be exactly what you wanted. I'm in Georgia, for example. Maybe you had always hoped for one of those proposals that's on the beach with, a heart and rose petals or something. Well, we don't have the beach here, but there are lakes. There are other places you could do. There's some pretty waterfalls. Like, you can be creative, and it doesn't necessarily have to be overly expensive, but it will take your, partner's, just their thoughts and their desires in mind. And I thought about one proposal I did see online that this gentleman, him and his the wife, I guess the future wife, were really big book people, and it sounds like they were always in like libraries or something like that. So he crafted like a book, kind of a little false part in it. And so he took her to this like bookstore, and he had her take that book out. And then in the little crevice, it was like where the ring was. And again, I don't know how much it costs to get that ring with the little false area, but I guess I'm just saying, I feel like that's a very nice gesture, and it was very particular to them as a couple and to her. But it was very sweet. Like, it took into account who she was as a person and the things that they like and enjoy together into the proposal. So Mother's Day recently passing, I cannot tell you how many posts I saw of people who were really hurt and upset that their partner did not like acknowledge them on Mother's Day, not just even celebrate them. So not do something grand, but acknowledge them. Even saying Happy Mother's Day, giving a card. I'm talking about the bar was very low, and it seems like it's the same rationale. If I say excuses, the same rationale. So it's Mother's Day. I celebrate my mother, but I don't celebrate you, which I think is so strange because I can celebrate a friend who's a mom. I can celebrate my auntie. There's like so many mothers. So the fact that some people would say they don't celebrate their spouse because it's not their mother, I think is very interesting reasoning. You'll see too in the comments people saying, well, I don't celebrate those holidays. They're just all like commercial holidays. But I feel like if you live in the United States, particularly in capitalism, in everything, everything's about money here. Everything has some kind of underlying motivation that's commercial. So to say that you're not going to celebrate your spouse on Mother's Day because it's commercial, then why do you do anything? I mean, people aren't out here just giving away balloons for free, flowers for free, sports tickets for free, right? There's an underlying financial kind of give and take. So to say that you don't want to do something on Mother's Day for your spouse, to me, it's just wild for that reasoning. But I'm just coming here to say that if you're going into a relationship and already the proposal wasn't what you expected, and it sounds like whatever she got was kind of way off from her expectations, man, you got to start communicating that. And you really have to start thinking, like, do I want to live the rest of my life with a partner where this may be the case? In some of those comments, also, people were saying, oh, my partner is like neurodivergent. They don't understand, why this would be important to me. Okay, but that's also not a way to dismiss what your needs and desires are. You can talk, hopefully, to the person or communicate to the person, even if they're neurodivergent. I want this. I want you to do this, and then they can respond to it, in the way that they're able to. So to just say, well, they're neurodivergent, so that's it, and just kind of take that. Again, that's not something I would choose for myself, but I would just encourage you that if you're in circumstances where even before you get married, people are really not responding to your needs or they're not thoughtful about your desires, that you should not expect that to get better. You're going into that with your eyes wide open. Literally from the proposal, you see what happened. And so just don't expect it to change. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get married, because in those comments there were plenty, and I would say the majority of comments were people who had a proposal that was disappointing to them. The far majority of people who commented had a proposal that was disappointing. And yet they were like, oh, we've been married 27 years. We've been married 15 years. We're happily married. So they were saying, hey, the proposal wasn't maybe what I expected, but I've had a really good marriage. What I'm saying is that's great for them. But when you go into it eyes wide open, when you have a proposal, just don't expect things to change. It's great if you go into it that way and it works out, but not being acknowledged from the beginning, to me, is something that I would really give a lot of thought to. And it goes back to not being allegations, because people, I mean, if I was a person who was single and living my own life and desires, and they were like, okay, sign up for this, sign up for, a potential relationship where 15 years down the road, you're upset because you can't even get a car for Mother's Day. I don't know if I would sign up for that. So, well, anyway, that's all I had about not beating the allegations as it relates to relationships and marriage. If you like this video, please do subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.